Like I said, it's a pleasure to be, presenting this redefining security and visibility for public, PSUs in new normal. Obviously, the new normal is all of us are sitting at home and doing this. The previous normal was you would have done this face to face, maybe in your office or in some of the halls. So this is the new normal, and this is there to stay for long. So my name is Vinay Bhat. I head network and security BU for VMware India. uh, Let me not take a lot of time. Okay, so now this is this is a very cliche word. I'm sure you guys have heard unprecedented times, but what does unprecedented times mean? So I've been talking to a lot of people. I've been reading a lot of articles, and I've been asking people what this unprecedented times mean, and primarily what does it mean to us? In our role, in our work, in our jobs. So there is a lot of fear and uncertainty today. Everywhere that we go, we are scared to even shake hands. We are scared to touch a railing. We are scared to touch a door. The scare is so much. We wear masks. We sanitize our hands. So there's a lot of fear and uncertainty. And this fear and uncertainty is being used by a lot of people to their benefit. How? uh, I'm sure you all must also have received a lot of emails saying we can actually ship you COVID mask, we can ship you some COVID related information, we can tell you what is happening in your neighborhood. Click on this link. These are nothing but a lot of phishing emails, and these are called themed phishing emails, and these have been used by attackers really, really effectively. And because of the fear and uncertainty that is there, some of us actually fall prey to this. What that does is, once you click on this email, one of the software gets installed in your laptop, desktop, or on one of your servers, and then that's where the ransomware starts, and it starts growing and all to your, and it starts spreading across all the other infrastructure or resources that you have. And today, like I said, we are all doing it from home, which means we are accessing typically all our application data sitting at home. And the moment you click on this phishing emails, and once it gets installed on my laptop, there is a very good chance that it can actually start spreading to the application and data that I get access to. And one of the one sec, sorry. Yeah, and then basically, these vulnerabilities due to work from home, what has it been doing is, it has actually been raising questions to folks who are on the call, and in your job, how safe is your organization? You would have put security features, you would have put security measures in your data center, perimeter firewall, you would have done a lot of agents and so on and so forth. But how secure are you when such vulnerabilities due to work from home arise, right? And then last but not the least, some of the disruptive malwares. Not all malwares will actually go and encrypt your file and data and lock you out. There are some disruptive malwares which actually so there is a term called cryptojacking. So basically what cryptojacking does is, they will actually make use of your physical resources from your laptop, desktop, or servers, and they will start mining cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, right? So there's a lot of fear and uncertainty, and people are actually making use of this. And what is this doing, right? This is one of the examples. I'm sure many of you must have seen this. This is what happened on Twitter. If you look at some of those Twitter handles, Mike Bloomberg, Joe Biden, Jeff Bezos, Apple, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Barack Obama. These are all who's who, right? These are all the top-notch guys. And Twitter is not like a small mom and shop company, right? Twitter is a pretty an MNC which is run professionally, and they got hit. And the way this was done, right? This was very, very cleverly done. What basically happened was, and this is again how Twitter explained this. This is actually where some of their employees were the victim of themed phishing emails, where they actually clicked on those phishing emails, and then their user ID, their password, their credentials got compromised, and some of the guys got access to their internal servers, and then they started hacking those email IDs, hacking those IDs, passwords, and started sending those emails. Now obviously the guys who were smart who did this, but the way they did this, because cryptocurrency and bitcoins, you have journaling, you have algorithm, so they could actually go ahead and track, and they did track all these guys who actually caused this. And one of the masterminds, okay, who was arrested by, obviously FBI was involved in FBI arrested him. The guy was 17 years old, which means Today the tools that are required for somebody to go and make such attacks, they're pretty young. They're not like pretty experienced guys, or somebody who's like very mature enough. They're actually very young guys who are actually generating such kind of traffic and such kind of attack. These are some of the facts, on hacking or attacks that are happening. There is every 39 seconds there's a hacker who's trying to attack. Believe it, every 39 seconds, and this time is only going down, right? If you look at your business email attacks, there are typically 6,170 malicious accounts, and they are hacked, and 1 lakh business email IDs have been hacked by so many organizations. And you can believe, even if those hackers are able to spread those ransomware and charge like 6, 7, 10 lakh rupees per organization, imagine if they do it to tens and hundreds of organizations, the amount of money that will get wasted in this. Now, this is another interesting ransomware that I was reading about, Wasted Locker, and it actually I went and hit Garmin. Now, most of us know Garmin more from, a wearable device where we wear and we kind of track our physical activity. But not most of us know that Garmin also provides, services to aviation industry, typically the navigation services to aviation industry, and some of the planes, right, they're guided by Garmin's applications. It all got hacked, and imagine the kind of effect this ransomware could have, and primarily because it is all about the security vulnerabilities that got used here, right? Now this is something very common, right? We must be having Alexa, or we must be having a Google Home, or we must be using some sort of smart speakers. What the smart speakers primarily do is when you call them and you ask them to do something, they go in the backend and they execute a command. Now imagine if somebody actually puts a malicious link there, and that command gets executed when you make that request, and then a hacker gets an access to your smart speaker, and he knows what you talk, he knows your history, he knows your personal data, he knows what your choices are, and he knows where your wife is, your kid is, he knows which school they go, he knows everything after that, right? This is another interesting one. We know what is happening on a border, right, between us and China and Pakistan and so much. And we are all, most of the guys on the call today, you belong to public sector organizations, and you guys are the first going to be, somebody who's on the radar of these guys, because National Highway Authority of India, they were under, they had some suspicious logins coming in from Taiwan and Hong Kong. Now, believe me, they could actually trace this, but I'm sure, there may be so many attacks coming in from so many regions, and they will not be able to trace where this is coming from. Our Android phones, our own familiar phones, which is there in our hand, they have 400 code vulnerabilities, and you must be allowing some of those phones to access applications and data from your data centers. This is something, so ransomware and cyber threats today are number one challenge, primarily because of the situation we are in. And last but not the least, Indian power grids are highly susceptible to cyber attacks. And this is July report that I was reading, because typically what our neighboring countries who wants to attack us wants to do is they want to cripple our backbone. They want to bring down us to our knees. And what they would do is they would actually go and hit all of these critical public sector units who provide essential services, if I may say, to all our citizens. And that will be something that we could be susceptible to. Now this threat is so much serious that on 15th of August, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi actually announced that they are going to unveil a new cybersecurity policy, which is very much required. We have already stopped a lot of Chinese apps who actually capture and copy a lot of data, and they were probably storing it in some servers which were not traceable by us. But this is where even government is getting noticed now, and government is now saying we should come out with a new cybersecurity policy. Now, I have collated some of this information from some of the reports that I've been reading, and these are some of these statistics, right? Defense evasion, 90% of times. IT security dynamics, 50% of IT and security teams, they're currently understaffed. And today, you're not only understaffed, but now your team is working from home, right? And so on and so forth. So I just want to focus on probably one aspect here, which is ransomware's resurgence. Now, let me double click on ransomware's resurgence and tell you how this thing works, right? Typically 9 months is the months of persistence that ransomware stays in your system. If you were to be hit by ransomware, you would not know it now. You would only typically know it after 9 months of time, and this is an average. Sometimes it has been 2 years, sometimes it is 6 months, sometimes it is lesser, higher. But typically a ransomware would stay into your system for 9 months, like a baby in mother's womb, and then it would come out. Now if a ransomware was actually supposed to go and rob your information, rob your data, that would have been fine. But you know what ransomware does? Ransomware gets into your house, sits with your family, sees what you're eating, looks at what you're reading, looks at your bank's user ID, password, looks at what you're eating, looks at where your school goes to kid, who's your wife, what car you drive, what is your credit card number. So ransomware is somebody who will stay in your system and study your entire system. And one fine day, typically average 9 months, that's when he suddenly gets activated, because at that point of time he would have studied everything possible about you, and he would have then put and then he would have put an attack that is something that you would have not been able to fight back, because he's become intelligence in that 9 months, and now he knows a lot more about you, and that is where they actually go and launch this attack. Now let me change gears and go to your data center and show you what this means. Now typically this is how a typical data center would look like. On your left hand side is what you see, some of the two racks full of servers, and your right hand side is what you're looking at, your network and security gear. Now, typically, when you say network and security gear, and if I have to ask somebody, what is the network and security mechanisms you would have firewalls, you have IDS, IPS, you have load balancers and WAFs, and then you would have a whole lot of analytics engine that would run on all of this mechanism and tell you what is going wrong, who is sending you bad signal, where it is originating from, and so on and so forth. Now imagine your workload is actually running in your left-hand racks, and your network and security mechanisms are in right-hand side racks. Which means if a security threat had to be identified, you need to send that traffic first to the security service, which then gets traced, or which then is checked for. Now, till that time, it would have taken down your entire rack, right? So the vulnerability is free to move inside the rack, and it is only known as a vulnerability when it moves, when the traffic is sent to your firewall. This is called hairpinning, right? While the legitimate traffic, when you do hairpinning, it not only affects your performance, because you're sending your traffic out to get inspected and then bring it back, but for traffic which is unauthorized, you are going to take that much more time for your packet to reach the firewall and then get inspected, and then come back, right? So in both ways, in performance as well as from a security perspective, this is not what you need. What you typically need is, and this is what we do, is we take this firewall, we turn this firewall into little chunks of code, and we run this firewall inside your servers where your virtual machines are running. We take IDS, IPS, we break them into small chunks, and we run them where your servers are running, where your VMs are running. So the moment, if there is a hack, right, obviously, and you can't do, right, so anything about that. For example, ransomware attack. Now it used the SMP port of Microsoft, that is used typically for Active Directory. And can you really block it? I don't think so, because you need Active Directory service for most of your applications and most of your servers. So the moment there is a compromise, what this will do is this firewall and IDS IPS mechanism will block it immediately there. It won't let it spread anywhere. It will get contained. And that is where your security mechanism can then work on it, then clean it up, and then bring it back into production. So I immediately, if there is a compromise, I block it. I take it into a containment zone. I do my, whatever correction that I have to do. And then once the infection is gone, I can take it back. And I'm not stopped with firewall and IDS IPS. I've actually virtualized a load balancer also. Why should a packet be load balanced somewhere outside when the VM is actually running on the physical server? I need to load balance it where it is, right? And last but not the least, the analytics engine. I break down this analytics engine into small pieces, and I run into a physical server. Sorry, background noise. I'm sorry. Is that something? Yeah. Is there a question? Okay, thank you. So what I've done right now is I have virtualized your firewall, your IDS, IPS, load balancer, WAF, and the analytics engine, and I'm running it into your, closer towards the source, which means or closer towards your virtual machine. Mind you, I'm still not inside the source, so I'm not asking you to install any agents, right? Today you must be running plethora of agents. You must be running 15, 18 agents, and there is already agent contention or agent, there are various terms for that. I'm not causing those here because I'm agentless, and the benefit is I'm running this all in a hypervisor, and that is the most safest place where you can run this code, because hypervisor has never been hacked, and it has never been hacked primarily because I don't provide a shell for any command to execute. So nobody can get access to my hypervisor and run any command, and that's why it is the safest place to run these services. Now let me just double click on this and show you one more thing. Now IDS IPS, right? I showed you how I break those IDS IPS into smaller chunks and run it closer towards where your virtual machines run. Now typically an IDS IPS device will have thousands of signatures. Will have 13, 15, 20,000 signatures, tons of signatures, and then you will have express equation where you will see the traffic, and then you will apply those signatures accordingly. But mind you, when the traffic is flowing on your wire, right, as a packet, you don't know whether that packet is a Apache, you don't know whether that packet belongs to a Red Hat or Oracle database or Microsoft, which means that packet typically goes through all the signatures. And one of the feedback that we got from our customers is false positives, because even if it is a Red Hat packet, and it is actually being getting checked by a Windows packet, the chances are that it might get the false positive get alerted there. So what VMware does is, now I have taken the small chunks of IPS IDS and distributed it. I also do this now because of the virtue that I know what is the context of that virtual machine. I know that your web tier virtual machines are an Apache virtual machine, Exchange virtual machine, and I know in that finance apps you are running a Tomcat server, and your finance DB is actually an AD server. So what I do is I take out the signatures which are relevant to that environment, which is Apache and which is Exchange and so on and so forth, and I apply only those signatures, which means I reduce the probability of false positive dramatically. Otherwise, that Apache packet would have gone, and it would have gone through 13,000 signatures or 15,000 signatures. Today, it is getting compared only with 132 signatures, and it tells you whether that is a compromised service or compromised packet or not. And along with IDS IPS, like I told you in the previous slide, I've also virtualized firewall and WAF, and all these policies are connected to your virtual machine, to your workload. Now, how does it help you, right? This gives you an agility. And how does it help you tomorrow if you have to create another virtual machine, web tier virtual machine, because there is more load and you need to create one more virtual machine? You create the virtual machine, the security policy gets automatically attached to it. So what that means is, practically, you will never have a virtual machine without a security policy. You will always have a virtual machine with security policy. So much so that if you're moving this virtual machine from one host to another, or maybe one site to another site, the policy moves, right? Your virtual machine is never unprotected and is protected. Now mind you, if you look at the security policies, right? I don't have multiple security policies like I showed you in the previous slide, where you have an IDS where you need to send your packets. For firewalling, you need to send your packets and bring it back. For load balancing, you need to send your packets and bring it back. I do all of this in a single pass, which means even the performance goes up. In a single pass, I'm able to check IDs, IP signatures, firewalling, load balancing. So I can give you a better performance as well by doing this. Now, typically, your application will look like this, right? Your one application of one tier is talking to another application of another tier. One could be a container, one could be a database, another could be a web tier. So typically, this is how your application will look like. You'll have web UI, services, your virtual machines, your containers. What this basically means is I need to treat all of this uniformly. I cannot tell you that if you are managing virtual machine, this is the console, this is how you write your policies. And if you're running containers, this is your console and this is how you write policy. And sorry, they don't talk to each other because containers and virtual machines are two different technologies. No, that's not what we do. What we do is this: we consider all your virtual machines and servers as first-class citizens, and you can write network and security policies for all of them through a single console. So much so that even if you are hosting this virtual machine and containers on a public cloud, you can still write those network and security policies through that single pane of glass, right? Now, this is what this platform that I was talking about. It's called Virtual Cloud Network. VMware started this journey somewhere around 2012. Today, it is into the 6th generation of this platform. We started with switching, routing, and internal firewall. We launched IPS, IPS. Then, like I said, we now have application delivery controller, load balancer, WAF, web application firewall, and now we also have service mesh. Now, service mesh typically is required when you're running containers. So I treat, like I said, all your workloads inside a data center, be it physical, virtual, or containers, as first-class citizens. And what I've now done is I've actually used the same technology of security and expanded it to your WAN. because not all your traffic will be consumed in your office, right? Some of your applications and data will be consumed in your branches, and today they're actually consumed from home. So I need to protect your traffic even when it is going on your WAN. So from through an SD-WAN layer, I am able to do that, and then I have one single analytics engine that encompasses your data center from a VCN perspective and can also monitor your traffic when it is going on WAN. Because typically if you are a PSU organization and you have a branch and somebody tells you that he is actually facing an application issue, there's a user experience issue, the application is slow, this analytics is able to tell you, and I actually had a demo, but because paucity of time I'm not able to do the demo, but this advanced analytics can actually tell you there are so many hops for this application in a data center. These are the network layers, or these are the network segments that it is touching. This is how it is flowing on your WAN. This is the latency, this is the jitter, and this is the level, or this is the segment where it is experiencing maximum latency. And then you can, you are able to pinpoint, and then you need to double click and see what's going wrong in that. So typically, today the issue is when you have a large infrastructure and you're running large organizations like yourself, the problem is finding that needle in a haystack, right? And then able to work on it, then able to fix on it. So that's what this analytics engine is able to give you. So VMware's strategy is this. In earlier days, you would first set up a building like this, a pretty decent, good building with air conditions like you see, and then somebody tells you where's security, right? And then what do? You install your cameras, you put fire exits, and you put all sort of security mechanism. Now this is a way where your security is an afterthought. You have built a building and security is an afterthought, and we call this thought process as bolted on. What we do in VMware is different. What we say is when you're setting up your house or when you're setting up a building, security has to be built in. It has to be thought when you're actually creating your bungalow, your house, your office, and it has to be built in. So, and if you're creating a one more room, which means you're creating a one more virtual machine, the security needs to be connected to it and spinned in that manner. And we call this as built in. And we say built in differently because you don't have to then bother when you're creating a virtual machine whether it is protected or not. Mind you, like I showed you in one of the slides, you create a virtual machines and the policies could be written already. The policy just gets attached to the virtual machine and your VM is secured. Now this is one of the tools like I was showing you, the analytics engine, which basically shows you how your traffic is flowing between different layers. It can also tell you what kind of traffic is going on internet. It can tell you, and it tells you which port, which IP addresses. There was a demo, but unfortunately due to paucity of time, I'm not able to do the demo. But this tool, if any of you guys want us to run this, we can run this in a non-committal manner. Obviously, we're not going to charge you. It's free of cost. And this tool is run in a form where we call network and security assessment. This tool doesn't capture any data and put on cloud, which means it doesn't require any internet connection. While it will tell you if any of your workload is connected to internet, but the tool itself doesn't require any internet connection. And the best part about this tool is it is agentless. So it doesn't create any sort of overheads on your workload. It runs agentless. So that's a small short talk from me. And like I said, if you want us to run this network and security assessment in your organization, that's my mail ID. Please feel free to call me. It's a 60-day free trial, which means it's non-committal. Obviously, we're not going to charge you. But if any of you guys are interested, please drop us a line and we'll be happy to